Hey guys, got another one here for you. This one's going to be a quick one. I already have a scene set up, but I'm going to go ahead and just redo it. So we have just the basic scene, and what this tutorial is going to be about is just a very basic, it's not going to be very complex, it's going to be very basic, and it's going to be a spherical scene. And what that is a lot of people use that to do planet renders, and then they actually save that object and put it into their own scene, like in another program. And that's what you can definitely do here. But we're just going to render it all out inside of View, and I'll start with showing you how to turn the scene into a spherical scene. What you want to do is click on File. So say you have your scene already up right now, but you haven't done anything yet. You want to go to File, Options, and then it'll probably start in General Preferences. What you want to do is go all the way to Units and Coordinates and check Spherical Scene. Next thing you want to do is adjust the scene radius. So if you know the exact radius of a planet, then you would input that here. I believe this is actually Earth's radius. I can't really remember. I haven't looked into it. Another thing you're going to want to do is if you plan on using terrains, you're going to want to use planetary terrains. But I'm going to show you something real quick and why you would want to check this first. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that and then click OK. The next thing you want to do is when you have it set up like that, you're going to want to zoom out, and this is what you'll see. And then View will render it out, and you render that more, zoom out, more, and that is your spherical scene right there. You can see it up here. Don't worry about this bright white here, it'll change, but you can see that you're only getting a portion of the terrain here, and that's when you want to check use planetary terrains, and then you click OK, View will render it out. Now it's a complete circle or sphere anyways, and then now you can properly align it in the camera the way you want it. The default atmosphere looks really good with spherical scenes, but you do want to adjust the softness a little bit by 1 or 2 degrees, and that way the shading right here, the shadows, won't be a sharp cutoff. They'll fade, and that's exactly what you want. The next thing is I personally like to work with just the ground layer. I don't like loading a infinite terrain and then working with those unless I really have to, but I just like working with the ground layer. And then what you would do is you would just apply materials to the ground layer. I know that sounds really weird, but that's all you would do. So I'm just going to go ahead and load up just the default right here, and I'm just going to delete the grass because we're not going to need that. The grass layer right here, delete. Why you no delete? Oh, that's right, because it's a mixed material. Okay, there we go. And that's strange. I didn't want that. Well, shoot. Okay. Well, we'll keep it. We'll just make it all rock then. There we go. Okay. Next, what we're going to want to do is adjust the scale. So this is a massive terrain. So we're going to want to load up a final, render it to screen, and render it. And we'll see what it looks like. And they render pretty quickly. They really do. Just because there's really not a lot of detail shooting clear up in the space. And it looks like the atmosphere is getting in the way for now, so what we'll do is we'll click OK, go to Atmosphere Settings, and just lower the sky density and the decay amount to 0. And what that'll do is that it'll clear up the atmosphere so you can see exactly what your ground layer looks like. It's really hard to tell through all that haze, or not haze, but like the decay and the blue atmosphere. So that's what we have so far. It doesn't look great. It's because we have to raise the scale. And what you would want to do is just go here, and at the scale just put in 1, and just keep raising it with zeros until it looks like what you want. And you can check in the preview window here. And just keep adding zeros. And there's quite a bit of them. You can even add more than just one. You can put like 2, 0, 0, 0, 0, or 3, whatever. Just raise it enough to where you get enough detail with the material that you have. And this really only works well with large bitmaps or procedural materials. So you don't want to use a small tiled bitmap, or else you're going to get something that looks really bad. Alright, this looks good. It's kind of starting to look like the moon. Still really plain and really bland. That's alright, we can fix this. What we want to do is, first of all, uncheck auto exposure. Stupid auto exposure. Click OK. And next, don't worry about this artifact right there. Next is we want to go to the ground, click on the rock right here, or whichever material that you loaded. Go to bumps and just double click, and you can load up any of these. You can make your own, or you can just load up a preset. I really like the moon, the asteroid. This one looks really cool, but the moon one we're just gonna load just for giggles, I guess. And we're gonna raise the bump to about 4,000. Next, we're gonna render. Alright, and it's a very small depth here, so not depth, but it's just small. You can see here it's just not looking great. So we're gonna click OK. OK again, and just real quick, I want to raise this. C, Control V, OK. That is way too much, especially with all that bump. So lower the bump, and still have too much. Lower the bump again, and we're going to delete this material. We're going to try a different material. Well, we're going to do the same one. We're just going to do it differently this time. Okay, so okay, simple. Load up a rock. I think the rock is in here. We can use, we just want a plain rock. Default would probably work, but I guess we can use default. Why not? And then we'll just change the color to a grayish color, like right there. There we go. And then bump, add that, and that's what we have. Does it reflect here? No. Let's see what happens. We still have this weird artifact here. I'm not sure what that is. It's not playing nicely, so let's reload the scene, do a new one. I've done this like a million times. I don't know why it's not working, but we all live and learn. Spherical scene, planetary terrain, okay, okay. Zoom out, zoom way out. You have to re-aim your camera every time. Zoom way out again. You have to go too far. Zoom in. And call that good. Go to atmosphere. Lower, lower. Okay. Next, reposition the sun. So we gotta reposition it so we can get some good lighting. Right there, I believe. Yep. Then ground, and by golly, it better work. Okay. Landscape. Default. This is what I used in every tutorial. I use this in every tutorial, so it better work. If you make it too much, it probably won't matter, but just to be safe, I'll raise it a little bit more. I'm wondering if that's what the problem was. And then the scale, change the scale right here. Maybe this is where I messed up. Just add zeros until it starts looking good. About right there is where I like it. Let's test it. It's rendering inside of you and not in a little window, but That's what I get for rushing. Okay. Don't care about the auto exposure right now. We want to add at least 1 degree of softness to it. And we're going to change these. Final, render to screen. Okay. There we go. Ground. We don't want to render, my bad. Ground. That's what we have. Next, rock. Load a bump. That's what we get. There we go. That turned out much better. Alright, now we'll look. There we go. Now that's starting to look like the surface of the moon-ish, anyways. You can work on it a little bit more. So, that's just a bump. Remember, that's just a bump. It still has sphericals. It's still a sphere. There's no displacement to it. But we can add displacement. When you add the displacement, it will take a while longer to render, but you're going to want to check displace outwards only, as well as add bump to map, or add bump mapping to displaced surfaces. And then you can change the bump here to be a little bit more, and that way it is kind of a little bit more prevalent. You can add some smoothing to it. You might want to a little bit, not too much. Render it out. See what we get. Looks good. Maybe a little too much bump. You can see some shadow artifacts in there right now. So that's no good. Right here. I'm assuming this is being displaced and it's so high up there that it's wow, okay. Yeah. I can show you how to do something else too. So we have that. It doesn't not working very well. You can do it, and probably just too much depth for the bump, but we can also, let's check off Displace Mapping. We can also load up our own function. So, okay. Let's just edit it, the function. Delete all of those and that. You know what? Let's just reset the function. There we go. Now edit it. Alright. So, too much to work with there. Didn't want to ruin the material. That's all the material stuff. We just want the bump. So we can load up Fractal, add it to the bump, altitude, and we can see what we have here. So you can starting to see the bump there. You can also see the bump here. And let's zoom out. Just make sure there's not multiple bumps here that we were worrying about. Nope. Okay. Next, we're going to change it to a terrain fractal. Terrain fractal is really good for everything that you ever wanted to do in Vue. Alright. We're going to change the metascale so it's a little bit smaller. You can see it updating here on its own. Largest feature a little bit higher. Roughness, lower, gain, higher. Just for testing purposes. Higher on the roughness, lower on the gain. There we go. Distortion, we're going to raise the distortion quite a bit. We want something a little bit crazy looking, just for fun. And bump surge, and variation strength. So we get a little bit of variation in the bump there. A little smaller on the metascale. We're going to go all the way down. A little bit higher, lower actually on the largest feature. Now, you know what? Let's go higher. We'll go higher. There we go. A little bit higher. Lower. Sweet. Then we're going to change this to billow ridge mix. And we're going to make it a little bit more towards the billows. And that's our bump. So it doesn't look great right here. Doesn't look great right there. But it all comes down to how it looks in the render. So let's render it out. And that looks really ridiculous. So much distortion. Just so much distortion. It's ridiculous. Alright. So that doesn't look real at all. Of course, you can have fun with this. You can make any planet look however you want. But we're going to take the distortion down. We're going to edit that. Take the distortion down. And we're going to take the gain up and the roughness up. And let's see what that looks like. And remember, you don't have to change everything in the fractal. If it looks good right here, but it's still just a little bit too bumpy, I guess, you can lower the bump as well. So if you get the look you want, but it's just a little too much, and it's hard to find a good medium, just lower the bump. You can lower the option right there in the depth. Go ahead and click render one more time. We'll see what that's like. There we go. Looks different than the last one. It's not, the bumps aren't as, you know, prominent. So that looks like a good little, with some flat surfaces here. It looks like we could have some mountain ranges right here somewhere, and we can play with it a little bit, and we can make our own planet. The next thing you want to do is when you get the results you want, you're going to want to edit the atmosphere. And like I said before, the default atmosphere is great. Of course, you always want to play with your different options. You don't want to just go with whatever. You want to make sure you get what you want. And what you want is whatever, then whatever. There we go. We're going to do that. We're going to raise this up to about 80 or even higher. Let's go to 90. And let's raise the decay amount. Altitude, there we go, looking good. Well, a little more blue in there, so not that much. There we go. Click OK and render it. Alright, and those bumps will give off their own shadows, of course, so if you move the sun around, the shadows will display differently. And that's pretty much it all there is to it. You can, if you have relighting enabled, you can play with like the ambient lighting and stuff like that to make it look a little bit cooler or whatnot. And other than that, that's all there is to spherical scenes. There's more you can do, granted, but for a beginner look at spherical scenes, you can do that. You can get some planet textures. I have a cool website you can go to right here. Let's see if I have it. Planet texture map right here. JHT's Planetary Pixel Emporium. All you have to do is just go to Pixel Emporium or planetpixelemporium.com, and he has all these different planets. The best one he has is Jupiter, not because Jupiter is the default planet to go to, but because he has a 6K resolution map. You just click on 6K and it'll download. It'll be a .jp to import it into Photoshop or your photo editing program and save it as a JPEG or a PNG or whatever. Then you can load it into view, and you can actually have a planet Jupiter render. So he has an older one right here you can use. This is the best one. Then he also had, this is the color map, and it also works with bump map, so you can raise the bump and you can get some bumps on it. But it's a gas planet, granted. You don't want too much bump there. He also has, and the other one that's really cool is Pluto. He has ones from Pluto, a 2K resolution. He also has the bump map separate. He also has Earth. He has the color map, the bump map, the specular map, city lights, cloud transparency. He also has the moon, 4K resolution of the moon. He just has everything, and you can import them all into view. And the way you would do that is, let's say we want to do the moon. I haven't done the moon, so let's do a 4K. And let's go into here. And all you would have to do is edit the material, go to simple material, load this up as the default rock, go to color and alpha, mapped picture, load the picture, give it a second. My hard drive's slow to load inside of view sometimes. Find your file that you want to import. So right now we have, let's see where that's saved. Is it done? Show in folder. So it's in downloads. So let's move it to the desktop. And open up view. There's our moon. Open it. Bicubic. Make it spherical so it's mapping correctly. And what you're going to want to do after that is play with the scale. So right now, if I render this, it's not going to look correctly because the scale's off. It looks like it, you know what, that could be right. No, the scale's off. So we got to play with the scale. And you just, basically, you just mess with the image scale right here. Bam, bam. Try to keep these 1 to 1, so 500, 500. And this could very well be doing it wrong. So you just got to play with it. Maybe we need a higher bump or higher scale. We don't want to stretch it, so let's take it to 2. Let's see what 2 looks like. No? How about a little higher? 2800. Probably still too much. Let's lower the bump depth. Not that it would probably really matter, but because we don't have a bump loaded onto it. And that's stretching it way too much. And you can actually start seeing where the seam is. So you just got to play with it, and it gets difficult sometimes to get it right, but you do automatic mapping, and that might just work as well. Automatic mapping might be the best option there that you can use, but you just play with it until you find, and you know what, if it's 4000 by 200, you can probably make the image size right here 4000 by 2000. Nope, don't do that. Or what about 4 by 2? What about that? Stretches it wrong. But you see what I mean. You can play with it that way, and you can just load up any of these images and play with it a little bit till you find what you want. And oh, that was his bump, by the way, so maybe I loaded the wrong one. But he has all of them. He even has the sun. He has a color map for the sun, Mercury, Venus, all of them. So just have fun with it. Do what you do. Keep on viewing, and I hope you enjoyed this small tutorial. It wasn't very much, and hopefully we accomplished enough to help you understand how spherical scenes work. Rate, subscribe, recommend, suggest, whatever. As long as I can continue doing videos and at least teaching you guys something, then I am fulfilling my job. So good luck out there and have fun.